Lucille meets Monica, who tells her that there aren't many healers because it's too hard for the healer guild to censor healers. He explained that if a healer decides to misbehave, asking for excessive fees, they cannot stop him from doing so, because they also feel that the healer needs the community, so by putting him cannot be sent. After hearing their concerns, she promises to ensure that she becomes a good healer and does her best to take care of people and not use her skills for her own benefit. After he leaves her, he goes to the street where he sees wounded adventurers. He approaches them and promises to heal them all. Although he is nervous and scared because he has never faced such a situation before, he summons his courage, and his desire to cure them drives him to do something. He goes to the first victim and assures him that he will heal him. She sings her song, and after she finishes her transformation, she calls out to heal, but to her surprise, her magic doesn't work. One of the adventurers around asks him what he's doing and is he sure he can heal the injured. He apologizes for what happened and says it was his fault. He tries to think about where he went wrong, especially knowing that he doesn't have any magical power at the moment, and wasting it without healing anyone wouldn't do any of them any good. In his mind, the mistake he made was not using his mind to understand how magic worked. Because he did, he realizes that in order for the magic to work, he needs to create a mental figure in which the injury can heal itself and recover. So that's the only way he can do that. He imagines that his wound is healing, and he calls out the chant. This time he succeeds and the wound heals. He goes ahead to heal others. He does what he can for a while and ends up being one of the wounded. When he goes to him and tries to heal him, he finds that he has only one strength left and that he is getting weaker. He hopes he can heal the last person before he passes out. But his eyes suddenly close, he falls down and he can no longer stand up. He realizes that it is impossible to heal the last man and is very upset when he hears the voices of those around him trying to ask him to get up so that the last man does not die. Unfortunately, it falls and blacks out, and the last person dies. He wakes up later and sits on his bed thinking. He is upset that he could not save the life of the last person who needed help, and he remembers the words of the adults there, who told him that he should not be blamed, because what happened was not his blame. He managed to cure many people before the last cause. Although he is encouraged by his success, he is also discouraged by his failures. He feels bad for not being able to do anything. He realizes that he needs to increase his healing power and level up if he wants to heal people the way he wants. He believes that the only way to successfully do this without any problems is to register with the Adventurers Guild. If he does, he feels that he can quickly level up and increase his strength. He goes to the guild and immediately enters the guild and is amazed at how the guild looks. It looks beautiful and amazing and he wants to be a part of them. He meets the clerk and tells him that he wants to register with the guild. She welcomes him and gives him an application to fill out. It takes the form and fills in the information. He returns the uniform to her and she tells him that she has martial arts skills so she can enroll in the guild. He wonders if he wouldn't have been able to enroll in the guild if he didn't have martial arts skills. He tells her that since she has the skills, she can join them, and he has to explain how the adventure lifestyle works. He tells him that he will get a mission in the guild, and after he successfully completes the mission, he will return to the guild to get his money, and he will pay the guild 10% of the money as an operating fee. He listens to him well and asks that he be punished if he fails to complete the task. He tells her that there are fees for failure, so she needs to control herself and make sure she doesn't miss any assignments. Hearing this, he is very scared. He asks her if there is a special mission for the healers. He says he's a healer and he doesn't know how to fight. He said that if he did, he could teach him how to fight and work as a healer. She asks him if someone can train him there and if he pays for the training with his services. He says he should tell his boss first. He asks her to stay and wait for him while he calls the guild leader. He comes back after a few seconds and he comes with a big man. Lucille is very scared when he sees the figure of this man. The man looks very big and scary. It wasn't the first time he saw a scary person trying to pull himself together, because when he was in the other world, his master was also very big and scary, and he met him here. There was no one, a world that could be worse than any other, so he decided to pretend he was good. He looks at the man who calls himself a boy, who asks what he wants, and he explains that he wonders if he can work as a doctor in the guild while someone else trains him in martial arts. The man asks him why he wants to train himself to fight. He reminds her that she is a healer and that healers don't need to learn to fight. Lucille explains that it's because he doesn't want to be a burden to anyone. He says that he feels weak. If he encounters a monster, he will be killed, and he does not want to lose his life that day. The man tells him he heard and asks when he wants to continue. Tells him that he will be paid 1 coin as salary and tuition fee will be deducted from his salary. The man tells her to move on immediately. But Lucille says she wants to move on in 5 days. The man orders the servant to take care of him. The lady introduced herself as Naniela and he smiled at her. He immediately smiles at her and says her name too. Suddenly he felt eyes on him. He turns to see several people looking at him. The person in front of him coughs, and the person behind him leaves. He assumes that this man also holds a high position in the guild, and he introduces himself as Broad, the guild leader. Lucille appreciates and leaves Broad. He returns home and is happy that he will get stronger in a few days. As she remembers what future awaits her, Monica enters the room with her food. He tells her that he brought her food and asks her how her day was and if she can get what she wants. He tells her that he went to the guild and they agreed to train him in martial arts. He is very proud of her. Before he leaves, she asks him what level he needs to reach as a healer to become a professional, and he tells her that if he can reach level 5 before the age of 20, he can be accepted as a professional. Thinking about it, he has to add a degree every year and wonders if he can do it. He says he'll take her out on a date if she can make it. He is shocked to hear this and she doesn't expect him to say it. She wonders what he means by a date and encourages herself that she will make it to get him on a date. A week later, he resumed training. His deadly course in holy magic passed quickly and he was finally done. He returns to the Healers Guild where he meets Kururu and appreciates her for staying with him and helping him. He says he's done and how it's going. He told her that he was a very good and excellent healer, so he had his work cut out for him before he even finished raising his affinity. He appreciates her again and tries to leave, but she tells him that if he sees Lumina, he should appreciate her too. He promises to check on Lumina next time he comes. He goes to the guild and immediately inside he sees several eyes looking at him. He said the views felt familiar, as if he was sitting in his board meeting and his sales were low. He goes to the maid and it's not Naniela this time but another maid. He introduces himself and says he's a new adventurer who needs to start training with Broad. So he tells her to go underground and he'll find a training center. When he arrives, he sees Broad, but notices he's the only one there. Broad glares at him, shaking his body, but he doesn't want to look weak, so he pretends to be fine and greets Broad. Broad says he's surprised Lucille didn't run away after seeing the way Lucille looked at him. He tells Lucille that they're just training, and Lucille feels scared again, but not so much here. He bows and says he's willing to learn, and Broad tells him he has guts. They start training and Broad asks her to run. He will keep running until he is tired. He calls Broad evil, but admits that compared to his life on Earth and how he died, he had a happy life. He claims to be in heaven and suddenly faints from exhaustion. After he recovers, Broad sits back and lets out a very loud scream. Broad then asks him to fight. He throws a leg first at Broad, but he's too weak. Broad asks if he can go that far, and he says that's why he's training to get better. After that day's practice, Broad tells him that he needs to learn to train well and exhaust himself, so it could grow better. He gets injured and tries to use his magic to heal himself, but Broad refuses, saying that if he heals naturally, it will increase his healing power. He decides to do it, and Broad also teaches him how to increase his strength. He appreciates Broad, but questions why there aren't more adventurers training. Broad tells him that young adventurers don't have money, so instead of training in the jungle and getting injured, they go straight to missions. He says that he wants to put Lucille to bed so that he can heal everyone, regardless of age or race, and Lucille promises to do so. Some wounded adventurers arrive. At first they think that Lucille won't heal them, but he heals them without collecting money. He really understands that doctors have a bad image in this country. He returns to Broad and tells him that he can only heal 8 people at a time and he wants to increase the numbers. Broad says he can do it if he's tired and sees how far he can go. Although she knows it will be stressful, she admits it is to her advantage, so she decides to do it. Before leaving the guild, Broad asks him if he wants to live in the guild. He wonders what he owes, and Broad even says that he is given 3 meals a day. It looks like a jackpot, so he asks Broad what he'll get in return. But Broad says it's his adventure to stop dying needlessly. Lucille promises to do her best and asks if she can heal the other person who comes to her. Broad says the world would be a better place if every healer was like Lucille. Seeing how things are going in her favor in the new world, Lucille agrees that she has found a good place to live.